There are games that we'll look back 20, 30 years from now and we'll say to ourselves, I remember what happened that day. It's not embedded in my brain, but I can go back and look at the stat sheet and figure out what went wrong or what went right. And then there are games to where you will be embedded forever in your memory. It will constantly be brought up in conversation. And 30 or 40 years from now, when your grandkid is sitting on your lap, they'll ask you, hey, what happened on that Saturday out in Neyland Stadium? And it'll go right back to where you were sitting, how you felt in that instant. And remember that this is what makes college football the greatest game to ever exist, because that is what you see on display as fans in 109,000 cladded in the orange and white are walking out of their stadium knowing what should have been and just couldn't come up. 44-41 final score, overtime game, which I called, which honestly, I was even shocked that happened, but welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel, because we're talking about Tennessee falling short, despite having a moment where it felt like finally the chains were coming unleashed, and it was their time to shine. But Georgia, once again, bowing down and showing the rest of the SEC why it reigns supreme. Like the video, hit the ring notification. Make sure you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, especially for Friday nights, because we do the happy hour and we give you betting lines. One of our favorite bets of the week was the over hitting in this game. Naturally, that happened before the end of the third quarter. And make sure you check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. As always, we're proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets simply by winning your first $5 bet. And Tennessee fans, I know that you are down right now, but if you would like to go ahead and throw a little bit of cash on Joey Aguilar to maybe make a run to New York City, or your Volunteers going to the college football playoff, now is the best time. FanDuel.com/SECU. What a game. Instant classic. Everything that you want to see. Game of the year mentality. This will be hard to top. Every other game in the SEC will have to meet this standard and this category for it to even come close to getting that billing. That was what we saw on the field on Neyland, especially in the second half. What we watched and witnessed between back and forth blows to a hot start from Tennessee, to the response from Georgia, to the end of the game where it felt like this was where it all came together, and then unfortunately came crashing down. This is what makes college football the greatest game on earth. Let's start off with Georgia. We always start off with winners on the show. Do you ever see the movie Warrior? Do you guys remember that movie? 2011, one of the best fighting movies, just one of the best sports movies that's ever come out. Great acting, by the way, if you haven't seen it, by Tom Hardy. And I forget who the other guy is. Anyways, Joel Egerton. There we go. Do you remember in that first scene when we figure out who Tommy Reardon is? He's fighting against this guy named Mad Dog. And Mad Dog gets to the ring and he's like, I'll fight you, boy. Just give me give me $200. I'll fight him. No problem whatsoever. And he gets to the ring and he starts going and spawn with him a little bit. And then he starts to win the fight. He starts taking over. And it's like, okay, a little bit of a different feel. Never seen this version before. And you're waiting, throwing the towel, just hit the bell, and he knocks him out, and then he goes up to the trainer and goes, you owe me $200. That was what this game felt like for Georgia, but it was Mad Dog as a dog. It was clearly a one-sided spectacle that just felt like, holy crap, where was this offense a season ago? The deep ball on display. Beautiful pass downfield to Chris Brazell for a 73-yard score. The consistency, first down opportunities after first down opportunities, exceptional red zone drives to cap it all off with 2 touchdowns. And then you're up 21-7. You got a few blows in, but thank God that first quarter came to an end. That was the bell. Because if you were about ready to get knocked out by Joey Aguilar and this high-power tempo Tennessee offense that was not slowing down. And this is not me telling you this as a fan or somebody who picked Tennessee to win the football game. This is what the numbers were saying in this matchup. The most passing yards in a first quarter for a quarterback in the history against a Glenn Schumann / Kirby Smart defense all time. Over 200 yards passing, 3 total touchdowns, 2 through the air, a passer rating at the time of 222, and a completion percentage of 91.2%. Joey Aguilar was in his element. But this is why we play more than just the first quarter. And we don't call the game when we see a 14-point disadvantage. Because what did we watch? The response of Georgia. We saw the response of Gunnar Stockton. Not afraid to take the deep shots. Not afraid to step up in the pocket. Not afraid to use mobility. He silenced a lot of critics today. Yours truly. 23 of 31, 304 yards, 2 touchdown passes, also had a 13-yard touchdown run. He did everything he wanted. He was able to live up to the moment. And there were a lot of people that wondered, is this a quarterback that we can buy stock into? Yeah, you can. Because if he never wavered, he never faltered, he never felt like that the moment was too big for him. And yes, there were a couple of 3-and-outs. But I want to take you back to that third quarter. We come out of break, Georgia gets the football. That drive alone, milking 8 minutes off the clock, being able to play your brand of football, which is physicality and finite in a little bit of finesse. It works. And you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because that was what you needed at that moment. You tired down Tennessee's defense. You were able to force them to start putting their hands on their hips. And then when you got in the red zone, what'd you do? You capitalized. You trusted Josh McCray to go ahead and boot, scoot, and boogie like Brooks and Dunn. And there he was off to the races to go ahead and punch it on it. So you got to be happy about that. You got to feel really content about that. Then Joey Aguilar comes out. If you look at that first half and then you look at the second and third quarter and you just ask yourself, well, what went wrong? That was the moment. That was the moment where it felt like, okay, Georgia once again is still reigning supreme in this rivalry. Georgia once again, it's a lopsided affair. What's the point of even showing on up? 200 plus passing yards in the first quarter. The next two before the final drive of the third quarter, 13 passing yards. They were obsolete. 2 big turnovers. It became a moment where it felt like this is where Georgia was going to be able to capitalize. This is where they would run away with it. Once again, Georgia reigned supreme. And lo and behold, they were able to in the fourth quarter, in the final minutes of the game, but still, you felt like that this was where you would suffocate them. And this is what they do all the time because Georgia's an anaconda. Georgia is this team that plays with its food, and then when it gets tired of it, it suffocates it and swallows it whole. And it'll take a little bit of time to digest, but you're okay with that because you want to know what? You're well fed, and you're feasting, and you're content. And it felt like going into the fourth quarter, big time interception in the third. This was the moment where Georgia could put its foot on the gas, go ahead and full throttle it all the way to the end zone, and walk away back to Athens at 3-0. And they nearly did that. But this is where we see the version of Tennessee that we have been waiting for. A lot of people have been doubting Josh Heupel for far too long, in my opinion. In fact, I would say well after the Hendon Hooker days. And largely it was due to the fact that Alex Golesh was gone. And some people said you need to hire a play caller. You need to bring somebody else in to kind of work with the offensive personnel. You need to be able to figure out who is going to be the right guy to run the show and just let you be the head coach. And he said no. He said, nope, I'm going to run it my way. I'm going to do things the way that I think that are fit. Going to run out with Joe Milton. Didn't work out. We went 8-4. Going to run it out with Nico Iamaleava. Okay. We went 10-2. We made the college football playoff, largely due to our rushing attack and then our defense. I'm going to trust this Joey Aguilar kid, and it's going to finally work. And it did. Most quarterbacks against a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann defense down by 8 points would quit in that moment. 6 points, my apologies. Would quit in that moment. Because if you know that if you make one faulty mistake, ball immediately goes back to Georgia, capitalize, they deliver. What happened? Well, you find Chris Brazell once again downfield, who has truly come into his own element. Like I said, he would. Like I said, wide receivers in year 2 of Josh Heupel's system just figure things out. Jalen Hyatt did it, and now Chris Brazell is doing it. Big time score, right back in the game. And momentum shifts, and it goes right back to the Tennessee sideline. All we got to do is get that stop. All we got to do is get the ball back to our offense. And they were able to. And then, unfortunately, they weren't able to go ahead and capitalize. So what happened? Gave the ball right back to Georgia. Georgia marches downfield. They get a fumble. Oh, no. Here we go. Ball back in favor of Tennessee. Look at that. We're in red zone opportunities. Can't score. So we settle for a field goal. Now, Georgia at this point, got to have touchdown. Got to be able to deliver. Have to be able to make this count. Carson Beck out the door. Gunnar Stockton in. He has got to show you why he is the quarterback to work for a Mike Bobo system. And what do we see? Right in the back of the end zone, in front of the end zone, London Humphreys. Easy score. Beautiful ball. Incredible timing. Exceptional catch. And Georgia's right back in this thing. And here we are going into the final minutes of the fourth quarter. And lo and behold, once again, you start to see the maneuvering of what is Joey Aguilar. Big 12-yard completion to Braylon Staley. 9-yard run by Star Thomas. Had a good day on the ground. The numbers won't back that up, but he was physical. Picks up another first down with a 4-yard run. 6-yard run. Star Thomas. They're tiring down Georgia's defense. Time after time after time. Deshaun Bishop gets another first down. You're in Georgia territory. And at the moment to start to get there, you as a Tennessee fan, who many of you have not seen this moment before or haven't seen it in your backyard in over a decade, you're realizing what's about to happen. You're starting to figure out the streak's coming to an end. Since this time, we have watched countless quarterbacks, head coaches, and multiple wide receivers go off to the NFL, make their name, stake their claim as Sunday players. And here we are, still finding a way to lose to Kirby Smart, year in and year out. But not this year, not tonight. Here we are, ready to go ahead and rush the field. It's a moment that you will forever remember. I remember when fans were talking about the Alabama win in 2022. Just because it hadn't happened didn't mean it wouldn't. And lo and behold, you have a quarterback that comes on in, fits the offense, a wide receiver that comes on in, is a security blanket for his passer, and you're right inside of the red zone territory. Field goal to walk it off. Get ready to celebrate. Bring out the goalposts into the Tennessee River. And a false start. And you feel the panic. And just for an instant, you're right back to where you were in 16, my apologies. Knowing, here we go again, 10 years of waiting for this to happen. All the trials, all the blips, all the coaching fires, all the change, all the personnel moves. It's not going to happen. No. He's already made a kick today. He's already done it. He's already been in the situation. We're not going to miss. And Max Gilbert, as he sets on up and you hear the broadcast, if you're listening at home, and this is what many of you should do. Meanwhile, while you're here, like the video and hit the ring notification. That way you don't miss out on any episode. You realize they're starting to do it again, where they're talking about our kicker when we don't need them to. And you watch as the kick leaves the foot and you instantly know that's going right. It's going right and we're going to overtime. And it's a gut punch. It truly is. Because outside of two very, very, very bad interceptions and turnovers by Joey Aguilar, he delivered. He did everything that you needed to be able to go ahead and prove that he was the right quarterback for this team. 370 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, over a 65% completion rating, passer rating of over 150. Just so much that you look at and you say to yourself, this is where it's supposed to be our year. And simply it isn't. And then you go ahead and you get Max Gilbert to go ahead and drain the field goal from the same position that he was in. And then you watch as Nate Frazier runs it for 25 yards. Josh McCrane's at the red zone. And you're right back at square one. If you're Georgia, you're celebrating. You got to win. And you should never take away from a win. A lot of things you got to clean up. Defensively, you allowed far too many explosive plays. Defensively, you allowed far too many mishaps. And you can call for the offensive pass interference on Chris Brazell all you want, but there were many a play where certainly you could have gotten a defensive pass interference against Tennessee, and they didn't call it. So if you're going to take it on one side, you got to allow it to happen on the other. The interception that was supposed to go to Brazell, guess what? That was a DPI, wasn't called. So you know what? Eye for an eye if you wanted to look at it that way. Don't take away from the celebration that was a massive win on the road against a team that certainly showed on up. That was also very limited on the defensive side. Didn't have Jackson Moore in the defensive tackle spot. Didn't have both of its starting cornerbacks once again. And Gunnar Stockton delivered, but he probably would have done the exact same thing if you had a Ricky Gibson or a Jamal McCoy out there. He still would have maybe had a turnover at the wrong time. But regardless, there were just little things that happened that were in favor of Georgia in this game. Just little things like that. So if you're Georgia, you have to celebrate. You sit at 3-0. You secured a win. More importantly, you go into the bye week with enough time to get healthy before you welcome in a revamped Alabama roster. And Alabama, I don't know if they've actually come back fully. I don't know if the Crimson Tide are going to be a team that we actually see make noise down in Athens. There's a lot of questions that I still have after today. But they certainly feel like they have the quarterback figured out. That part's secure. They have a number one wide receiver, and they have a complimentary number two. Whether it be Jeremy Bernard as your number one and Ryan Williams as your Robin, or Ryan Williams takes it over as the Nightwing, and then you throw in now Tim Drake as, Jeremy Bernard as the Robin in this case. Whatever it is, they have pieces. But you got to win, and you're not in panic mode, and you're not living in this constant fear of 1-0 mentality for the rest of the season. You don't have to worry about that. And then if you win that game, you basically have two of your bigger tests out of the way. Texas right now is not looking complete. I don't think you have to worry about Florida at this point. Ole Miss has its fair share of struggles. We don't know what they are. This was a win that you had to get, and you got it. You secured it, locked it on up, and you should be proud because the way that you responded, fight or flight mechanism was on display today, and it worked. very much so in favor of the Dogs. And Kirby Smart, once again, keeps his title going for another year. A streak that was supposed to end extends instead. Got to be pleased about that. Now, for the standpoint of Tennessee, and by the way, I know that my voice is really raspy, so I apologize. Don't have a water around, or I'd go ahead and get the sip. For Tennessee's standpoint, you didn't win the football game, and there are no such things as moral victories. Nor will I ever believe in moral victories at all. But I think that you prove to a lot of people that you are a playoff team. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to make the college football playoff today on September 13, 2025. You still have got to get better when it comes to the explosive plays. You cannot allow teams to be able to fight their way back in. There aren't many teams built like Georgia, with a great defensive line, with an exceptional offensive personnel that can bully you in the trenches and then work over the top with finesse plays. You don't have many teams like that. But there are teams out there that do exist. But in my opinion, what was the biggest question we had going into the offseason? Quarterback. You trusted your identity. The thing is with Georgia, they trusted their identity and it worked. Tennessee did the exact same thing. They spread out Georgia. They still ran the football insufficiently. Finished with, 125 yards, 3.7 yards of playing, 1 rushing score. But what happened? You still were able to use the run to set up the pass. And you had 34 carries against 36 pass attempts, which is a very balanced offense that we see constantly from what Tennessee likes to run. And because of you were able to trust your instincts, you had the explosive plays downfield. You're going to get healthy on the defensive side. You're going to find a way to be able to build yourself back up when it comes to the offensive personnel. And you have a quarterback. Honestly, the person that you should be more impressed with today, outside of anybody else in the world of college football, is Joey Aguilar and Gunnar Stockton. Stockton needed to make a big-time play. He delivered constantly. Fourth quarter, half-to-half touchdown, easy front to the pylon, London Humphreys for a score. You look at Joey Aguilar. Needed to show that he was ready for SEC football. Did it against ETSU and Syracuse. Syracuse had its fair share of struggles against UConn, who lost today in overtime to Delaware. And lo and behold, here we are. 300-plus passing yards, 4 tutties on the day, 2 unforgivable turnovers at ill-advised times. But you'll live with it because of what he was able to respond. He didn't catch a break. A couple of miscues here and there ultimately put the nail in the coffin for Tennessee and what should have been a streak coming to a halt. But it didn't happen today. Doesn't mean it can't. And it certainly doesn't mean that when you look ahead into the season with your schedule. And so many people out there who are wondering, hey, what could have been? Are we really going to be a 9-3 team? Yeah, I don't see why not. Who do you look at right now that you constantly are saying they're better than us? It's Georgia. It's Georgia, and then you got to be able to win in the swamp. Something you haven't been able to do for decades. And this isn't a Josh Heupel thing. This has been a Tennessee thing. You can finally get there if this is the version of Florida we constantly continue to see. So I'm not ready to give up on Tennessee. It was a good game plan. It was an excellent finish. The response mechanism to watch as Georgia halts its way back into the conversation. And then you go ahead and say, nope, not ready. We're not going down. It's basically Randy Marsh whenever he's going up against Bat Dad in the South Park episode. Hey, Bat Dad, I didn't hear no bell. I'm the best around. And then you just keep punching and punching and punching. And lo and behold, you win the fight. But ultimately, you remember what happened in that South Park episode. A lot of us do. South Park got eliminated because of the dad got in a brawl and they got disqualified. Tennessee missed a kick. They lose the football game. The streak continues for another year. That's what this felt like. But it's an instant game that you will forever remember for a lot of reasons. If you're a Georgia fan, this may be the spark to where Gunnar Stockton truly comes into his own. He starts to look like the quarterback that you envisioned when he was coming out of high school. He starts living up to the billing of who he's supposed to be in Mike Bobo's system. You trust that Mike Bobo actually knows what he's doing. The physicality in the defense and the offensive line is back. And you also really have to like where you are when it comes to your receiving core. Colby Young had a good day. Zachariah Branch with that big touchdown in the first half. Certainly things that you needed to generate that boost and that spark. And you're going to need it when you face off against Alabama. And you're going to need it when you face off against Texas and Auburn on the road. Because those are all games that you are going to have to be able to play sufficient offense if you want to win. And you can. But if you're a Tennessee fan, it's not a daunting overall feeling. It sucks right now. It does. And I'm not going to say moral victories forever count. Because this is the SEC. At the end of the day, your record says that you're 0-1 in conference play. But you haven't been able to score more than 17 points, except for once in the last 10 years. He had a quarterback that put up 21 in the first quarter. He had a quarterback that fought his way back into the third quarter and was able to deliver a beautiful pass downfield to once again reignite that spark when Rocky Top, one of the most hostile environments in college football, was silent. And you re-jolted that spark. And it cascaded through 109 screaming people cladded in the orange and white that gave you a jolt to be able to at least make this a game and bring this back and make this fun. You got to be content if you're Tennessee. Not with the loss. Never with the loss. But knowing that this is not the end of your story. A lot of people were impressed today. Yours truly. By what Joey Aguilar did. And he's going to continue to do this. And he's going to keep you in every game. And your wide receivers have grown. And your running back room still has an identity. And your defense was able to come up with a couple of big-time stops and force some 3 and outs at right moments. It just is Kirby Smart's game. And it's very hard to beat the master when he is winning and he's finding ways to scheme it on up. And he gets one last chance to put the nail in the coffin. One explosive run from Nate Frazier. 2 close calls, including a touch to the end zone and an impressive play by Josh McCray to go ahead and seal it. That was the difference. Bad field goal, bad false start, a couple of turnovers, and one more explosive drive from Kirby Smart. Or Tennessee ends the streak. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Let's get to your comments before we get on out of here. I bet John wishes he had one more play. Honestly, looking back at that to me is 100% where I feel like that is. That to me is just one of those things that, do you run that last play and then call it a day? Tim Banks needs to learn to give safety help on crucial 4th downs. You can't leave a safety over the top like that one-on-one. You just can't. Fake didn't fix like the NFL. I don't really think so. GA beats 10, BA beats 10 and 9 out of 10. It wants to be close. Okay, whatever. I mean, it was very close in this game. But you still got to be impressed with the way that we saw Tennessee respond. That's just the bottom line, in my opinion. All right, we're going to end the stream. Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on social media at SEC Unfiltered. I'm Mr. Cole Thompson. Oh, and by the way, real fast, if you haven't already, go on over to FANDUEL.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. It's really simple to sign on up. Just go visit FANDUEL.com. Get your hits, parlays, double adages, whatever you want. NFL season back tomorrow. We got college football back on our television screens. The only question I have for you, and the only question that FanDuel has for you, is are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/SECU. Get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. All right, end the stream right now. We'll be back later tonight after Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. Maybe we'll do a couple of other adages with Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Florida versus LSU, maybe even Arkansas, Ole Miss, depending on how those games go. But I'm Cole Thompson. An instant classic down in Knoxville. Absolutely a game that we will forever remember, especially in 2025. 44-41 final score. Georgia keeps the streak alive for one more year. But Tennessee impresses. Just wasn't enough to get the job done. Peace.